Tyler Drake is in the studio.
Tyler, I got to ask,
Taking his life into his own hands,
did you sign the waiver? What kind of birds are those on your shirt there?
Yeah, well, here's the first thing. Yeah, Jarrett hit me up yesterday, said, hey, come in, we'd like to have you on, and said, all right, for the Big Lee Murata show with Jarrett, obviously we know his pattern, his love for patterns and colors. I had a Jarrett collection that I just decided to throw on, and then I show up and Jarrett's not here. So, Jarrett, this is for you, buddy.
So it's a Miami, I can't remember the name of the bird, though, right?
It's a flamingo.
The Flamingo Friday. Okay.
There we go. There you go. We've got a day now.
Tyler, it's funny. They won 4 games last year, and the offseason, like, as soon as he kicked in, I mean, it was chaos every day. Mm-hmm. I mean, people getting fired, GMs, coaching searches, all that kind of stuff. It's about as relatively quiet an offseason. I mean, I know it just got underway, but it's almost like there ain't no news.
Is it that great?
It must be a little boring for a beat writer like yourself, but yeah, it's kind of odd that a team that only won 4 games has kind of set sail into the off season, and it's kind of all quiet on the Western Front.
Yeah, and I think that is a positive, a big positive, because if you look, like you said last year, I think we all saw it. The writing was on the wall. This year, though, there's a clear path forward. There is a clear, even the team, the 4-13 is the same exact record as last season, but they beat quality teams. I mean, 3 out of the 4 in the playoffs. Atlanta took it right up to the last game. So it's definitely a different spot. It's refreshing to see the limited amount of things that are getting thrown out there, because I think that just shows how much everybody in that organization is on the same page. And we could not say that a year ago. We didn't know what was going to happen a year ago, but now you can see a path. Like Monty and JG have gotten this team to a point where the foundation is created. Now it's about building upon that, and you've got to really hit hard on the draft. You got to hit hard on this free agency if you're Monty Austin for it. But there is a clear path out of the cellars of the NFL for sure.
Well, I think the culture has definitely turned around with the team. You could see that on the field as well. I think the last 8 games with Murray was a positive. I think sometimes he'd have that rating in the 80s, and then he'd have one where it'd be 114. So I see that we talked off air. The team is 100% committed to Kyler Murray moving forward. Although my Carolina guy Drake May's on the board, I'm still thinking they should go that way. But where is the need then for that number 4 pick for the Cardinals? Where do they go?
For me, I think if Marvin's there, that's your pick. Generational type talent. You give Kyler a legit option to pair with another really tall wide receiver in Michael Wilson. You've got Rondale Moore you can still mold around. If they bring back Greg Dortch, you've got that. So you bring in a guy like Harrison Jr., and that's not even getting into Hollywood Brown potentially on a 1-year deal or whatever, if that's what they want to do. But you bring in a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr., I think that really resets the offense and takes that another step forward. But if he's not there, I think you're probably trading out of that pick, and you're probably going to move down and potentially look at maybe an offensive lineman and then switch back around and get a wide receiver later. So there's a lot of different ways this can go. It's really going to come down to how the Bears feel about Justin Fields, because if the Bears take a quarterback, I think that sets everybody else up to take quarterbacks up until the Cardinals, and then they have their pick of the litter of positional players like that. So I think it's really going to come down to what do they think about Justin Fields? And that's a big question right now. I think we just saw the OC got fired and a couple other players or a couple other coaches. So I think Justin Fields took a step forward this year. So I would be on the side of maybe keeping him, but I am also not big. I'm not savvy on the Bears like a guy maybe like Tim Ring is. So
yeah, I think they've made their I would be shocked if they stuck with Justin Fields.
Okay. So then that just makes it a lot more interesting of what exactly is going to happen up there at the top.
Tyler, I know you can't say for sure, but when you look at the positional groups that need improvement for the Cardinals, generally speaking, is there one that you'd like to see them rebuild via free agency as opposed to the draft? Like, for me, I look at the cornerback position. Mm-hmm. Man, I'd rather just go free agency when it comes to corners rather than risking it. Because I like with that position, I like the sure thing.
Yeah,
I'm going to get the guy that I know can play, pay him his money, and be set there, and I'm good with that.
Yeah, I agree. I think you've got these rookie. You've got Keitrell Clark. You've got Garrett Williams. You've got Starling Thomas, who did a lot of good this year, but they're not those lockdown guys just yet. Maybe they can get there. Garrett Williams, I'm really impressed with of being that nickel guy moving forward with Buda and Jalen. But yeah, you've really got to get you've got to get a lockdown guy that has been around the league, knows how it goes. I think you can go and draft a cornerback to learn, but
Sure.
you still have to get a veteran in there to really build out the rest of that room, because it's on the up and up. But you've got to be able to get a lockdown guy that you can say, all right, there's their number one. You're going on him all day.
You mentioned Rondell Moore. I got to tell you, I would not be opposed. You keep Michael Wilson, obviously.
Yeah.
I would not be opposed if they did not rebuild that entire room.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I know Dortch popped a little bit at the end of the year, but I'm talking about a total rebuild, starting with Marvin Harrison Jr. God willing, he's still there at 4.
Yep.
Michael Wilson, Hollywood Brown gone, Rondell Moore gone, Greg Dortch if you want to bring him back. But Pascal gone.
Yep.
Totally rebuild that room.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You know what? I've seen enough of Rondell Moore over the last couple of years. It's just not there. It's not there for me. He's had opportunities to make plays. The plays aren't getting made. I think it's time to move on there.
Yeah, and I think another thing, too, just on that point, we saw him more. I think he was more effective as a runner than a pass catcher this year. So that alone.
Which, great.
Great, but you're a gadget guy
yes.
at that point. So
right.
and you've got a Michael Carter who I think is going to be the number 2 next year. So that, yes, I think Rondell Moore, you could probably move away from that. And like you said, you could really move away from this whole wide receivers room outside of Michael Wilson, because as we saw, tight ends were getting more run a lot of the time. Running backs were getting a lot of run a lot of the time. Wide receivers were like the third rung on the tier of getting those targets. So you definitely have to look at that and try to revamp it somehow, some way or another. Marvin obviously helps, but it's not just Marvin. You've got to really fill it out. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Kyler Murray deserves better in that regard. That's my opinion. Real quick, Tyler, one more for you. Do you think the scuttlebutt amongst the beat writers who are over there every day, would you expect any staff changes, any scuttlebutt about Jonathan Gannon being unhappy with any position group or any guys that may be in line for promotions for upgrades in their own personal careers?
Right now, I don't have a ton of who I think maybe could take those promotions. I know that Gannon did mention to us on Monday that his phone has been ringing about interest for for members of his coaching staff, and he wants to really make sure that he keeps the right pieces around. And it was a lot about, hey, how are you going to change things? Are you going to add anybody? And I'm more worried about losing guys. So I think maybe a Drew Petzing probably turned a couple heads. I think a guy like a Spencer Whipple, who's an offensive assistant, probably is getting some looks. Just some of those guys. I think the offense took some steps forward to where I feel that there's more looks there. And also I think the running backs coach did really well just getting that. Autry Denson with James Conner. I mean, he spoke volumes of him and said he became a better player because of him. So I think there's a lot of these position group guys that can very much maybe take that next step. Patrick Toney, I mean, Jonathan Gannon, the defensive backs coach, he said that's one of the hardest workers in the building. And we've seen, Patrick Toney's been all over. So that's the type of guy that I'm looking at too of, hey, he can maybe go up and take that next step forward in the NFL. And it's going to be interesting because obviously on a 4-13 team, you wouldn't expect all this kind of potential moving around, but it really does sound like Gannon might have some fear of potentially losing some of his guys.
All right, buddy, we're going to let you go. What's next for you? Super Bowl, Combine? Is it
actually,
in the budget?
Waste management first.
I just want to know before you go, Packers or Cowboys? That's all I want to know.
Dude, the Cowboys are going to win that game.
I think the Cowboys win, but I can't say the Cowboys are going to win. That's just, I can't do that.
Tyler Drake, Cardinals beat reporter, always doing a great job. Check out his work, ArizonaSports.com. T, appreciate it, brother.
Thanks, guys.
Tyler.
Thanks for watching Bickley and Marotta. Click to see the latest Bickley Blast and hit the button in the middle to subscribe to Arizona Sports.